In this video, we'll be talking about a few of the things you absolutely need to know for engraving. Quick clarification first. This video does not feature explanations in light burn, as certain lasers, namely the ones using the N2 nano central board like ours, do not support it. If you're looking for a general explanation and tips, however, you're welcome to stay and enjoy. First, we're gonna have to find the settings that best fit the laser that you're personally using. Second, we need to convert the picture to something called a bitmap so the laser can engrave it. And thirdly, we have to decide what material we'll be engraving on so we can adapt our image accordingly. So first of all, what is DPI? DPI, or dots per inch, has to do with the print density of our image. A higher DPI means our dots will be spaced closer together and we'll get a higher quality image. When our DPI is lower, we get less density, therefore less ability to portray detail. So higher DPI means better, right? Well, not always. It all boils down to the specs of your laser. Laser Everything makes a great video on how exactly DPI works and visualizes it, but if you want a quicker explanation, here it is. When your laser engraves, it essentially makes small dots. How dense you can go with these dots depends on your laser's beam and area, as well as the material that you're engraving on. By area, I mean the diameter of the smallest dot that your laser can create. With higher DPI, these dots get closer and closer together until they become so dense that their edges start merging into each other and you start losing detail. The goal here is to find the highest DPI your laser can engrave at, where those dots are just barely touching without breaching each other's area. This is also relevant when it comes to material as well. Even if your laser can do higher DPI, if your material is more porous or prone to burning, you're gonna have to do some adjustments in order to compensate. Speed is also very important when engraving on wood. Since the laser applies heat in order to create single dots, the closer they are together, the more heat is transferred per second. Now at a slower speed, and what you get is scorched material and a smoky room. So, how do we solve for these things? Well, test runs. We're going to create bitmaps of the same image with different DPIs in order to assess which one of those fits our laser the best. Right now, you're probably wondering, what is a bitmap? A bitmap is essentially a black and white representation of an image that's used for engraving. It only uses two colors, black and white, and in this type of image, black areas represent parts where the laser will turn on and engrave or burn the material, while white areas represent parts where the laser stays off and does nothing. Due to the way that our eyes perceive color, when those dots are spaced closer together, the effect of gray is also created. So any picture you wanted to engrave is going to have to be converted into a bitmap. I'll show you how to do it at Photoshop and also using a free program if you don't have an account. You can also do this with a program called Lightburn, and I'll link something in the description to show you how to do that. So first thing you're going to want to do is create a project file. We're going to want the measurements of our photo in these two areas here in these fields. In this case, mine are already pre-inputted in there. And let's see, here we have RGB color, and we're just gonna leave it at 150 for now. So, and pixels per inch. So I'm gonna go ahead and create the background. Now I'm going to put my photo in there. So what you wanna do now is image mode grayscale. We're going to make this black and white. And I'm just going to unlock this layer here so we can do further corrections. So now I'm going to go up to image size, and this menu is going to come up. Now this height and width is actually what your picture is how big your picture is actually going to be in your laser. So since these are tests, I'm going to just input a height of 100 millimeters or 10 centimeters, and the width is going to actually be proportionally calibrated, because this little icon here means that both of those are linked. So if they're linked, when I input one, the other one changes as well. And then the other thing we want to do is change our resolution here to 50. We're going to start off with 50 dpi and click OK. So as you can see, our picture has now changed in size drastically, and it's also lower quality. So now we're going to go back to image, mode, bitmap, and we're going to create a bitmap with this little menu here. So as you can see, your input resolution is the same as your output resolution. That's how it should be. If there's some kind of difference here, you can go back to the previous step and try to do that again. And then these are a few different types of dither. We're going to use diffusion dither for the purposes of this one. Click OK, here we go. So basically we created as you can see, matrix of dots, black and white dots. And when you zoom out a little bit more, you can see that some of the detail is actually still discernible, since our eyes perceive the black and white dots, and any distance in between them is perceived as gray because of that. So this is basically how it works. So I'm gonna go ahead and save this image as trial 50 because it's 50 DPI and click save. This little menu is gonna pop up. You don't wanna change anything here. We're just gonna use these settings, click OK, and then we're good. Now we have our 50 DPI bitmap. Now we're going to go ahead and go back to the beginning where our picture is unedited still. And here we're going to do this process again, exactly the same way, image size, but then we're going to increase this resolution or the DPI to 75. We're gonna go ahead and click OK. Then again, image, mode, bitmap, and again, as you can see, the input and the output resolution match. We're going to go ahead and click yes or OK. And then again, we get a bitmap. This one has a little bit more resolution though. So we're just gonna wanna do that process for a couple of more values. I've already gone and done that. So I have one for 50 DPI, 75, 100, 125, and 150, including some other variations on the versions. I'm going to show you the same process in a free program as well. This one's called Photop. It's pretty convenient, and as you can see, it looks and feels exactly like Photoshop. Also, it has a lot of the same features as well, which is pretty cool. So first we're gonna go up to image size, and here in the DPI we're going to input 50 as that's the value of our first sample. It's gonna resize it as you can see. Then we're going to go up to filter and other, and we're going to click dither. So here you can see the method and the palette. We're gonna leave them as black and white and Floyd Steinberg. And here you can see you've made the bitmap. You're gonna wanna export that as a BMP file, so you can feed that into whatever you use to engrave, whatever program your laser works with. In this case, we're going to name this 50 as this is the 50 DPI version. I like to keep everything organized. I should also mention that these are sample values, so if your laser is diode, UV, or fiber, you can actually run your tests from 150 DPI to 300 using the same method to create the bitmap. One more thing about how we can give our bitmap more clarity has to do with the contrast between black and white. We can adjust that by adding a contrast layer from adjustments. What these do is basically make the black parts darker and the white parts lighter to provide more separation and make the laser's job easier. You can also use the levels adjustments, which does a similar job but provides more control over mapping out brightness zones as well. Then we can convert it to a bitmap and proceed. You're not going to be able to do this after you convert to a bitmap because the bitmap cannot be edited under those adjustments, so this is important to do before we convert. This step is completely optional but can vastly improve results depending on your initial image quality and exposure. So now that we have our files ready, we can go and run them through the laser and see which one gives us the best results. So I ran a few of the images in the laser and I've sanded them to clear some of the burnt areas and reveal some more of the detail. From this you can see the 125 DPI looks the best. It's got the most detail and the most sharpness while retaining good contrast. In the lower DPI you can see we just flat out lose sharpness, and in the higher our contrast has almost completely disappeared. When it comes to strength and speed of the laser, I personally picked them out based on some of my previous projects, but here are a few things to keep in mind. First, your speed can't be too fast because the beam is barely going to leave a mark, and it can't be too slow because you don't want to overheat or damage your material. The power in my case was about half a full strength. If you want, you can run separate tests on strength and speed, but keep in mind that you can only change one parameter per test so you can know what affects what. Now let's talk material. Some grains engrave better than others based on differences in resin content, grain, hardness of the material, and burn characteristics. The best ones include maple, basswood, and cherry, and for good alternatives you can also try alder, birch, or walnut. Try to avoid resin-heavy woods like cedar or pine because these are going to burn unevenly and smoke a lot. The wood that you use has to be ideally a lighter shade so that you can better portray the contrast between white and black. In my case, I use my laser to engrave on wood, which means my burn mark is darker than the rest of the material. But if you engrave on metal or glass, keep in mind that your burn mark is going to be lighter. In those cases, we simply need to invert our bitmap like this. We're just going to go up to adjustments and invert, and this is going to make our black areas white and our white areas black. This is going to fit your image for any kind of engraving on either metals or wood. And the cool thing is you can make this inversion with pretty much any program that you use to work with your laser. This is what would happen if you chose not to invert. You'll get a stylish but admittedly unrealistic image, if that's what you're going for. And here's an example of the same engraving, but this time inverted. Thanks for watching. We hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, you can share it. It really helps us out a lot. And if you have any thoughts on the subject, you can leave us a comment down below as well. Let us know if you have any questions or if you would like to see more tutorials like this, and have a good one. We'll see you next week.